What's going on, guys? My name is Triforce Addiction. Welcome back to another COD mobile video. So today I want to discuss the patch notes, or I guess the upcoming weapon changes that are going to take place for Season 2. So this is something I haven't really had time to discuss, mainly because I've been focusing on different types of videos, such as reviews for the 117 Lava Remix, also about the ranked restrictions video. You know, I've been making a lot, trying to pump out as much as I can, at least to try to get me back into the algorithm. I think that's how it works. I'm not really a YouTube wizard, but hey, I'm trying to pump out as much as I can and keep my promise of returning. So with the new year of 2025, we have finally basically entered into year 6 of Call of Duty Mobile. It's kind of crazy to think that it feels like almost yesterday I just started playing this game, and it was like, I think season 7 of 2020. Like, just a lot of shit has happened throughout this entire game. And, you know, we've had some very shitty metas in the past. The MX9, at least for me, was probably the worst one. Well, besides persistence, of course. And it's nice to see that the devs over time have kind of improved in that aspect. Back then, they would not change anything. They would always keep one gun meta. It took them a very long time to fix the persistence issue, but over time they have improved when it comes to weapon balancing. It's no longer one gun. You know, every gun and every season has a sort of chance to kind of shine. So yeah, I mean, I think honestly that's probably one of the main reasons as to why I continue to play the game, because every single time there's a new patch, there's always something new to use or something new to try out. So it keeps the game fresh for me. Of course, with every patch update, there's stuff that people are gonna like, stuff that they're going to dislike, or some where it's going to leave us questioning why they even bothered to change a certain thing. It happens every time. For Season 2, though, they have a lot of decent changes, but maybe changes that won't impact the game too massively, let's be honest. There were no changes to the USS 9, which is pretty much the biggest issue right now in ranked besides the BP50, but as of, like, I think last season or the season before, the BP50 has been toned down a little bit to make it more challenging to use. I'm hoping for the USS 9 it doesn't become like this CBR thing where it doesn't get touched for like 2 years. And look, I know a lot of people kind of shit on COD Mobile for letting the CBR be meta for that long, but I kind of gave them an exception to that, mainly because they were still improving on other weapons while that weapon was still meta. I mean, it's not like the patch notes were just completely empty during that time. They were working on stuff like the KN44, the LK24, ICR. They were improving everything else to kind of match up with that. Was it annoying? Of course, obviously. I mean, people were using the CBR all the time, but I mean, there was weapons out there that could just easily put it to shame, like if you knew what you were doing, obviously. But let's actually go over these patch notes really quickly. So the first weapon that's got changed, at least on the list that I see, is the XM4. So yes, the XM4 being the new weapon for Season 1 did undergo some changes that are going to be made for Season 2. Of course, that's reduced visual recoil, reduced horizontal recoil, as well as, you know, adjusting the agency suppressor to provide a vertical recoil benefit up to 15%. So what are my thoughts on that? So reducing the visual recoil is one thing that I'm sure a lot of people should be happy with. And not specifically those with the Mythic, because there's not really a lot of visual recoil there, but in terms of the base weapon or even the Epic Blueprint in the Battle Pass, this is something that definitely is going to be welcoming, because it did bounce around a little bit. It was a little bit annoying, but I mean, it never bothered me too hard, but I mean, it's still a welcoming change either way. When it comes to the horizontal recoil, it's a different story. I mean, I never really had issues with horizontal recoil. Maybe some of you guys did, but I didn't really. I felt like this weapon didn't really have any horizontal recoil. But for the agency suppressor, given that that attachment specifically always has a recoil benefit for most Black Ops weapons, it kind of amazed me that it didn't have it in the first place. But yeah, it's still a welcoming change nonetheless, and it makes it even easier to use the Task Force barrel, because recently I've been using the reinforced heavy, mainly because it does have that, like, you don't have to like lose any sort of recoil benefits, and I used to be able to run agency suppressor on that, but I just don't like the fact that it slows you down and you don't have a very consistent 4-shot kill. So the first change that needs to be discussed with the HBR is the Thunderbolt Sling. So I know, like, I'll get to the multiplier right now, but for the Thunderbolt Sling, they basically just reduced the horizontal recoil reduction from 5% to 15%. So it's 10% more stable, I guess, but it's not something I really noticed with the HBR. It does have horizontal recoil, don't get me wrong, like, but I don't necessarily use a Thunderbolt sling, mainly because it kind of slows down your ADS strafe. And yeah, like I think they, if anything, they should have made some changes to that, because it slows you down pretty hard. But the one change I do want to discuss is actually the upper arm multiplier from 1 times to 1.2 times. So it may not be much within the first range, but you know, later on as you're going like mid range, that's when you start to notice the change, because there were times when I did use it where it felt like I was just getting nothing but like 5-shot kills up to like over like 20 meters. And mainly the main reason for that is because I guess the hit multipliers were not, I guess, very like consistent, if that makes any sense. The range is good. That's probably one of the good things about the HBR. But the multipliers was the issue, because it kind of felt really inconsistent when you shot like further ranges, especially when it gives you like a 5-shot kill given its fire rate. So having a change like that for the upper arm multiplier does even it out a little bit more. So yeah, this thing's definitely gonna be a lot more dangerous at longer ranges. So for the M13, it got another buff. Obviously, you can't have a patch notes without an M13 buff. So the lower arm multiplier increased from 1 times to 1.06 times, and the chest multiplier got increased from 1.06 times to 1.1 times. So basically what this does, I'm just going to keep it short here. You can now consistently 4-shot a lot better in the first range, which I think is up to, 11 meters. So up close, this thing is actually going to be a monster. A lot of people are kind of keeping their eyes on this weapon for next season. And if anything, it might be close to meta, or if anything, this probably should push it up pretty high. So we have kind of like I guess an unnecessary change for the M16. So the stomach multiplier was increased from basically to 1.1 times, and the hit flinch was reduced. I understand that with I think the full auto attachment, they have like increase of hit flinch, so this might actually help it a little bit. Maybe not by much, but it does something. For the stomach multiplier, this one I didn't really look up too much on, but I know it's supposed to increase consistency from a longer range, but as it goes for close range, it might not really do anything at all. Maybe if you're using the burst mode, it might be a lot more consistent, but the burst is already as strong as it can be. It's like in the 40s. So this is something that we're going to have to kind of like wait and see. Maybe someone will make a video on it, and from there I could see how much stronger it is, or maybe I could just try it out for myself once the update comes out. Yeah, I'm not really that sure about this one. So now we move on to a surprising change, in my opinion. The PP19 Bizon. So the BSA was improved from 2015 to 1810. It's crazy to me that I still can't understand how exactly improved that is. But, you know, whenever I think of a lower number, I know it's going to be a lot more accurate. But basically, the BSA has been improved, so you're going to be a lot more accurate at longer ranges, especially mid-range with the Bizon. It's probably going to be annoying. I still have that Bizon hate, or that Bizon trauma from when it first came out. So, you know, it's kind of like a little mental complex. Whenever you get killed by it, you just get pissed off because you just remember how annoying it was back in the day. But yeah, I might actually want to use it. So let's see how this one goes. So another change is going to come into this game for the CBR, which is another improvement to the bullet spread accuracy. So it's going to go from 24 to 20. So that's a pretty decent amount, and I would probably say that at this point in time, like after this update, the CBR is basically going to come back to how it originally was when it was meta. If you guys remember, the CBR was meta for 2 years, basically for a few reasons. Obviously, the BSA was one of them. You were able to basically have a really fast build with the gun, use the light stock and everything, and still have extremely good bullet spread accuracy. But, you know, recently, like maybe like about a year or two ago, they actually nerfed it down, so it's a lot less viable with that type of option. So a lot of us had to, you know, switch to using like steady stocks and much more accuracy related attachments. So while it may be back to where it was when it first came out, I mean, given with what we have right now, it's probably not going to make too much of a difference. Maybe it will be one of the top SMGs now, but again, with the BP-50 and the USS-9 being the top weapons right now, it's not going to make too much of an impact. So another change for the ISO, the arm multiplier did get increased from 1 times to 1.1 times. So I'm not really sure whether or not it has multiple different arm multipliers. Maybe it has like a lower arm and an upper arm, or maybe it's just one just the entire arm has a single multiplier. But something like this does kind of help a little bit, mainly because it still has that lack of consistency like within the first and the second range. It's something that I still feel like need to be improved upon. And it's, to be honest, I mean, the ISO to me is kind of like a good QQ9 alternative if like you're using like the 45 round mag. I actually prefer this over the 45 round mag QQ9. They also did a improvement, I guess, for the PPSH 41. It's not one that's really appealing to me at all, given that I don't really hit fire too often. It does seem like a pretty significant change, though, I will say that. But, I mean, in terms of, like, a competitive type of play, PPSH ain't gonna change. Like, the changes that they're doing right now are not really going to be effective, mainly because they're not focusing on the main stuff that needs to be focused on, specifically with the recoil issues. Don't get me wrong, they have made some changes to that, but it's never really truly been enough for it to at least be able to compete with other guns in the game, which is kind of unfortunate. And yeah, in my personal opinion, I think the PPSH, if they're going to make changes to this, they need to focus more on the horizontal recoil than anything. So the CX9 got a hit flinch reduction from 1.2 times to 1.1 times. Not really a massive substantial change, but the one change I am interested in is, of course, the CX38E barrel. So this is, I think, the other alternative non-suppressor type of range extending barrel that they have. But I never really had too much interest in using it, mainly because the suppressor barrel already has a lot more superior I guess range improvement abilities, as well as bullet speed improvement abilities at like during this time right now currently. But knowing that this is going to be changed, it might actually have people flock to this barrel while using the monolithic suppressor at the same time for more range. I know a lot of people use this type of combo when they're using the 12 round burst mag, but keep in mind the CX9 is very good as well when it's in full auto. It's, if anything, I actually prefer it over the Fennec given its speed. So this might also improve that area as well. Moving on to the MG42, a change that, I mean, it doesn't really do much, let's be honest. The MG42 got the VDD skeletal stock. I think it's the stock that pretty much everyone uses, including myself. They basically reduced the hip fire spread, or I guess they increased it, making it a lot less accurate when you hip fire it. But I mean, I don't really know how many people were doing that. But this seems to be a universal change, though, so it might also be very effective, or like it might be like this change might actually affect it in BR as well, given that you could hip fire from longer ranges in that mode compared to multiplayer. So I think that this specific change is going to affect BR more than multiplayer. However, I did hear some rumors, I'm not sure how true this is that they actually were planning to nerf the MG42 basically to the ground, because I guess like in the Chinese competitive scene, everyone was using the MG42. I don't know how true this is. Maybe one of you guys could shed light on that. But yeah, apparently there were supposed to be a lot more nerfs. But of course, rumors are rumors. They can't always be true. So unfortunately, this rumor was not true. So the RAW MG also got another change. So the head multiplier got increased from 1.4 to 1.5. So what this basically does is that it makes the weapon a 2-shot kill from the first range. Only the first range, which isn't really much. I think it's like only like 12 meters. But I think in my personal opinion with the RAW MG, it's a very touchy weapon, because I think the devs are trying to be as careful as they possibly can with this weapon, because if they make it too fast, or if they make changes that make it too fast, it could be too much of a monster. And given that it's getting an improvement like this, it could be even more devastating. So like I truly believe that the devs are trying to be as careful as possible with this one weapon alone, because if they make any wrong move, it's going to become meta immediately. I could feel that. So one of the more interesting changes, at least in my opinion, because I have been using the chopper this season, they increased the chest multiplier from 1 times to 1.17 times. So for all of you guys that, I mean, let's be honest, most of you guys probably don't use the chopper unless you're getting it gold. But I have been using it recently, and basically what it does is that it adds a 3-shot kill potential to the chest now. So basically in the first range, which can be extended up to I think like over 20 meters, this thing is now going to be able to hit, like, kill in 3 shots on the head and the chest. So if you manage to land those 2 areas, like, this thing's going to be pretty deadly. And given that it has a pretty decent fire rate, a pretty fast one, this thing's going to be even deadlier in the right hands of a skilled player. So now we move on to the dumbest change that they've ever made. So the choke for the Argus got increased BSA buff from 10% to 18%. They also increased the hipfire spread buff. So now it's 10% to 12%. Not really a big deal because the Argus is more of an ADS type of weapon. And also they reduced the movement speed penalty from 5% to 1%, making it faster. But they added some downsides such as 3% ADS movement speed and minus 5% ADS time. So basically, they made it a little bit slower, but the trade-off is that you get more out of this choke, which is probably not the best move because the Argus already has been pretty overpowered for a long time. And keep in mind, it really has never been touched. That's the thing. That's what makes it concerning. It would be one thing if the Argus got nerfed with its range a while back, but it just never did. And having a change like this actually makes it already much better than what it was when it first came out. So you're going to see a lot of trolls, whether or not you're in BR, multiplayer, or even ranked multiplayer. So this weapon might be a lot more toxic. So these two changes, I decided to bundle them up together, at least in this portion of the video, mainly because they have the same types of changes. So the Kilo Bolt action ADS time got reduced from 330 milliseconds to 300 milliseconds, and the SPR got an ADS time reduction from 380 milliseconds to 350 milliseconds. So, yeah, they're trying to make the bolt action marksmans a lot more, I guess, worthwhile when it comes to usage. I think the season before they increased the ADS speed for the MK2, which actually made it a lot faster and a lot more effective. But the Kilo Bow action and the SPR were kind of left behind. If anything, these two weapons don't really get touched that often. Of course, the SPR really has not been touched at all for a very long time. I would say well over a year. The SPR definitely needed that change, though. It was going to be a lot slower, and most of the Marksman rifles could pretty much do the same thing, well, at least in terms of the bolt action ones. But, I don't know, the SPR, both Kilo Bolt actions have, a really special place in my heart because I used to use them a lot during the sniper meta back in, year 2. So on this last part of the page, it does say the control field reduce energy requirement as well as Sparrow reduce energy requirement. So basically you get to earn these things and use them a little bit faster than before. But yeah, that's basically it over here. So now for the third page, which is the final page of the patch notes, I just decided just to put all this together. So the Death Machine got increased damage resistance from 25% to 30%. Basically, you're going to be taking a little bit more damage and staying alive with this thing. And it also increased all body multipliers by 1.2 times. So basically, this thing's going to be a lot more deadlier. The gravity spikes got an increased radius, so now it's 5 meters where you could die from it if you don't jump. It also has increased recharge speed, which I think might be a little bit problematic. I won't lie. But for the Dowser Grenade, they also increased the radius of it. So now you could, basically take out Molotovs or just the Thermites a little bit better. They also increased the recharge speed for that one. And for the Echo Grenade, they also optimized throwing animations. I don't really use it, so I don't care. The SAM turret also reduced score costs from 620 points to 560. So, I mean, for all of you guys that probably get spammed with the UAVs and ranked, that might be a good choice for you. For Reach Stock, reduced throwable recovery time from 20 seconds to 15 seconds. So, basically, a lot of objective game modes are going to be a lot more toxic with that one. As for Overclock, they increased the operator skill charge speed buff from 30% to 40%, so it gets even faster to use all those operator skills. So I could only imagine how bad that's going to turn out. So those are basically all the changes that are going to be coming into Season 2. So I'll tell you right now, I mean, I agree with some of the changes. They made some improvements to some of the weapons that haven't been improved on for a while, such as the 2 Marksman rifles and the chopper. But there are some also that I don't really agree with, specifically with the choke and the Argus. I mean, the Argus is already powerful as it is. There's no real reason to make it more powerful than it needs to be. The ones I'm really concerned about are actually the operator skills. So I know the Death Machine is not really used that often, and maybe the gravity spikes haven't really been used that often as well. But the fact that you could use them way more often, the fact that they also increased the recharge speed, on top of that increasing the overclock benefits, it's it's a little bit obsessive, it's one thing to use operator skills against players when you need to, but it's when you're just spamming them left to right, that might be a problem for ranked and even on casual multiplayer. So I'm not really too much of a fan of that change. Of course, we'll see how that turns out. Maybe it doesn't really change too much. Keep in mind, not everyone in the world's going to use overclock, but if it becomes too like perfect, or like not too perfect, but too good, I think a lot of people, or at least the usage is going to increase for like a lot of players. But anyways, that's basically all the changes that are coming into Season 2 in terms of weapon balance. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you leave a like. Make sure to subscribe for some more COD Mobile content. And also let me know what you guys think down below in the comments section. I would really like to hear that. But yeah, anyways, have a good one.